Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something powerful, something real. In the heart of London, the city of bridges, of royalty, of hustle and bright lights, something deeper is happening. Something spiritual. It's not loud, it's not chaotic, it's not seeking attention, but it's steady, it's graceful, it's truth finding its way through the cracks of a busy, distracted world. Londoners, from all walks of life, all colors, all classes, they're searching for purpose, searching for peace, searching for God, and in that search, they're finding Islam. Now I know what some folks might think. Islam in London, ain't that already a thing? Yeah, it is. But this is different. This isn't just about immigrants or communities holding on to tradition. This is Londoners born and raised, educated, career-driven, tech-savvy, choosing to walk a different path. Choosing prayer over parties, discipline over distraction, reflection over reaction. I've met young professionals, bankers, teachers, artists who tell me, I found in Islam what I couldn't find anywhere else. They say, I found order in a world that's chaotic. I found peace in a world that's always shouting. I found silence, where I could finally hear my soul. And these aren't folks who were forced. No, sir. They weren't pressured or persuaded. They were inspired. They were drawn in. They read the Quran for themselves. They watch the humility in a Muslim neighbor, the calm in a brother who prays 5 times a day, the patience of a sister wearing her faith on her sleeve, and they said, I want that. I need that. This ain't some trend, some movement. This is a transformation. This is a spiritual homecoming. I remember one brother, a former DJ from Brixton, he told me straight, I had money, I had noise, I had girls, but I was empty. One night I saw 2 Muslim men praying at 2 a.m. outside a closed shop. That image never left me. That's when I knew God had been waiting for me. Now he's memorizing the Quran. That's London today, and it's not just men. Women strong, intelligent, bold, they're stepping forward, saying, I chose this. I'm not oppressed. I'm blessed. You walk down East London, you see hijabs and headscarves next to business suits and briefcases. That's the new London. That's the heartbeat of this city, not divided, united by spirit. That's not just a religion rising. That's a people waking up. London's not just changing. It's breathing a new breath. And that breath carries the call to prayer. Now let's talk about something you can't miss if you're walking through the city. The visibility, the presence. Islam ain't just quietly sitting in corners no more, it's right there, in the heart of London. You hear it in the streets, you see it in the skyline, and you feel it in the rhythm of the day. You got mosques rising between train stations and cafes. You got adhan echoing in neighborhoods that used to be silent. You got halal shops shoulder to shoulder with high-end boutiques, and Qurans placed beside classics in community libraries. This ain't about taking over, no. This is about showing up unapologetically, respectfully, powerfully. It's a kind of confidence that says, we belong here. Because they do, and London, man, London's embracing it. You got schools that now give time for Friday prayer. Workplaces that make space for Ramadan. Universities where professors pause lectures so students can break fast at sunset. That ain't just tolerance, that's respect, that's recognition. You walk into a tube station in West London, you might catch a group handing out roses with quotes from the Prophet Muhammad. You might see a hijabi sister giving a talk on peace in a public square. You might see kids wearing kufis, elders with prayer beads, young brothers in thobes smiling and offering dates to strangers during iftar. That's the beauty of it. It ain't hidden, it ain't quiet, it's alive, it's proud, it's gentle but firm. Now some people thought years back that Islam in London would just stay inside the walls of homes and mosques. They were wrong. It's come outside. It's in the culture now, in the language, in the rhythm, and not by force but by presence, by example. That's the key. Muslims in London aren't pushing people out. They're inviting people in to listen, to understand, to connect. You see Quranic calligraphy next to street art. You hear Islamic poetry at open mics in Shoreditch. You see Islamic principles reflected in charity drives, soup kitchens, mental health circles. Islam ain't just being seen, it's being felt. And I'll tell you this, when faith becomes visible, it invites questions. It stirs curiosity. That's good. That's how dialogue begins. That's how hearts open. And London, this city of stories and second chances, is leaning into that. It's not closing doors, it's holding them open. Because when you let faith breathe in public, people breathe easier in private. So if you're standing in Piccadilly or passing through Stratford, look around. You'll see Islam not as a stranger, not as an outsider, but as part of the fabric. Woven in, beautifully, boldly, and you'll know this city. It's not just living, it's transforming. Now listen. If you really want to understand the heart of this transformation, you got to look at the youth. The young Muslims in London, they're not just part of the story. They're leading it. They're not hiding. They're not apologizing. They're stepping up, stepping forward, and speaking out. They're saying, we're not confused. We know who we are. We know where we're going. And they're walking with the kind of conviction this world forgot. I've seen these young brothers, 19, 20 years old, out in the streets, feeding the homeless after Taraweeh prayers, not because they're told to, but because they want to. Sisters organizing self-defense classes for Muslim girls, running podcasts about faith, fashion, and philosophy, all through an Islamic lens. These ain't just followers of faith. These are architects, builders. They're reshaping the narrative, one post, one conversation, one act of kindness at a time. They're in the colleges, the cafes, the courts. They're in law school and in tech startups. And guess what? They're not leaving their Islam at the door. Nah, they're bringing it with them. Boldly, humbly. You'll see a young brother with a fresh fade and a thawb quoting the Quran and Rumi in the same breath. You'll hear a young hijabi sister dropping spoken word in Camden Town about Allah, justice, and finding light in a dark world. That's what I'm talking about. Real voices, real strength, rooted in Deen. And don't get it twisted, these youth, they're not blind to the world. They see what's out there. They see the pressure, the temptations, the traps, but instead of folding, they're flipping the script. They're turning Instagram into dawah, TikTok into tafsir. They're reclaiming space in a city that once tried to erase them. You hear me? They're not just surviving, they're thriving, and they're pulling others in with them. I met a young revert born and raised in Hackney who told me, Islam gave me discipline. It gave me identity. It gave me purpose. Now I teach the Quran to kids who are just like me, lost, angry, looking for something. That's transformation. That's impact, and that's not just personal. That's generational. These youth, they're laying bricks, building a future where Islam isn't seen as foreign, but foundational. They're not waiting for approval. They're not asking for permission. They're living their faith loud, and you know what? It's magnetic. Non-Muslim classmates, colleagues, even professors, they see it. They respect it. Because truth, when it's lived with love and strength, it speaks loud. Loud enough to shake old ideas. Loud enough to plant new seeds. And when you see these young Muslims standing firm in faith, with one foot in this world and one foot in the next, you realize something. The future of Islam in London, it's not coming. It's already here, and it looks powerful. It looks beautiful. It looks like light walking through the storm. Now I want you to picture something powerful, people, different backgrounds, different beliefs, different stories coming together, not to argue, not to win, but to understand. That's what's happening in London. Quietly, strongly, interfaith dialogue is no longer just a line in a conference brochure. It's becoming real. It's becoming lived. It's becoming the bridge between hearts. I've seen imams sitting with rabbis. I've seen priests walking side by side with Muslim scholars through the streets of Tower Hamlets, not just for cameras, not just for statements, but for each other, for their communities, for something bigger. And let me tell you something that ain't easy, that takes humility, that takes courage, that takes spiritual maturity. But London is starting to show the world how it's done, and you know what's making it happen. It's the shared pain, the shared hope, the shared humanity. When tragedy strikes, these communities don't just retreat to their own corners, they come out together, shoulder to shoulder, candlelight vigils with verses from the Bible and the Quran, food drives run by churches, mosques, and synagogues together. That's not politics, that's heart. That's God working through people who still believe love is greater than fear. And look, we're not saying everything is perfect. There are still walls, still doubts, still people stuck in the old mindset, but what's changing is that those walls are cracking. You got Christian school teachers inviting Muslims to speak about Ramadan, Jewish teenagers visiting mosques for Friday prayers just to learn, Muslim youth organizing interfaith sports leagues, where the only team that matters is humanity. That's progress, that's courage, and the conversations are real. They're not sugar-coated. Muslims are speaking about Palestine with love but also wisdom. Christians are asking deep questions about the Prophet Muhammad with respect. Jews are sharing their pain, their hopes, their history. And no one's shouting. They're listening. That's where change begins, not in agreement, but in the willingness to listen without judgment. I sat in a room in South London, once Muslims, Christians, atheists, even folks who said they didn't know what they believed. And someone asked, "What do we all want?" The room was quiet, and then a young Muslim sister said, "We all want peace and we all want truth." That's it. That's the whole thing, peace and truth. Two things Islam stands on. Two things every sincere heart longs for. London is learning to ask better questions, to look past the noise, to find the human behind the label. And in that process, Islam isn't just being tolerated, it's being understood. That's powerful because understanding creates empathy. And empathy builds bridges that no hatred can burn down. And when you build those kinds of bridges, the ones rooted in honesty, in dignity, in faith, you're not just changing a city. You're changing the world one conversation at a time. You ever look around and feel like the world's gone mad, like everybody's running, chasing something, but nobody knows what they're really chasing? That's the world we live in today, fast, loud, shallow, and in the middle of that storm, in the middle of all that noise, something sacred is happening. People are waking up. They're realizing money don't buy peace. Fame don't give you meaning. Status don't calm your soul at night. And that's where the spiritual awakening begins, right here, in London, in the middle of the chaos. I'm talking about people who had everything this world could offer, the cars, the clothes, the applause, but still felt empty inside. And then somehow they stumbled on a verse from the Quran, or they heard a call to prayer echoing through a rainy evening, or they saw a Muslim silently making sujud in a quiet corner of a train station. And that moment, that tiny, subtle moment, lit a fire in their hearts. That's what I call mercy. That's what I call divine interruption. You see, Islam didn't come to entertain. It didn't come to sell you a lifestyle. It came to center your soul. It came to take your restless heart and anchor it in something eternal. In a world full of distractions, Islam offers direction. In a society addicted to validation, Islam gives you identity rooted in purpose. And people in London, they're starting to feel that, deep, real, quiet, but powerful. I met a sister from Kensington, born and raised in a wealthy non-Muslim family. She told me I was surrounded by everything, parties, privilege, prestige, but I felt invisible. One day, I picked up an English translation of the Quran just out of curiosity. I read one verse, "Indeed, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest," and I broke down in tears. That was it. That was the first time I felt seen by God. Now she wears her hijab like a crown and smiles like someone who finally made it home. That's not just religion. That's rebirth. And this spiritual awakening, it's not just one group, or one age, or one race. You got white reverts from Soho, black brothers from Peckham, Asian youth from Ilford, even ex-atheists from the city center all saying the same thing. I was lost. Then I turned to Allah. That's not a coincidence. That's a movement of the soul, because when the world gets too loud, the soul starts to scream. And Islam, it answers that scream with silence, with prayer, with purpose, with tawheed. So when you see people turning to Islam in a city like London, don't think it's just some cultural shift. No, it's deeper, it's spiritual, it's proof that in the darkest times the light of God still calls, and hearts, honest hearts, they still respond. Now let me close this circle, because what's happening in London, it ain't just local, it's global, it's a mirror, a reflection. You see, when a city as loud, as proud, as influential as London starts to turn toward God, when hearts start bowing, when eyes start crying, when hands start raising not for attention, but in supplication, the world pays attention. And what we're witnessing now is bigger than any headline. It's a spiritual shift. London, with all its diversity, all its ambition, all its contradictions, is showing us that even in the heart of modernity, the soul still longs for something ancient, something timeless, and that is Islam. It's not just immigrants holding on to faith anymore. It's born and bred Londoners reclaiming the fitra, the natural inclination toward God that this world tried so hard to bury. You got people walking into mosques with tattoos, with piercings, with pasts full of mistakes, and they're finding mercy, not judgment. You got sisters who once walked the catwalk, now walking toward the prayer mat. Brothers who once rolled in gangs, now rolling their foreheads on the ground in sujud, and all of it points to one simple truth. Allah guides who He wills, and when He calls a heart, nothing in this world can block that call. Now step back for a second. Look at the world. Look at the unrest, the division, the war, the noise, and then look at what's happening in this city. You'll see something different. You'll see people slowing down, reflecting, changing, choosing a life of prayer over pressure, choosing forgiveness over ego, choosing the unseen over the temporary. That's not just a trend, that's a divine design. And it's not just Islam rising in London, it's hearts rising. It's people waking up, saying, there's got to be more to life than this. And Islam comes in like a sunrise after a long night. It don't scream, it don't demand, it just shines. And when it shines, souls turn toward it. Like flowers to the sun, London is becoming a symbol, a signal, that even in the West, even in the middle of distractions and desires, people still crave truth, still seek God. And when they find Islam, they don't find something foreign. They find home. So let it be known, this ain't about takeover. This ain't about fear. This is about faith. Faith that transforms, faith that heals, faith that invites. London is changing, and maybe, just maybe, it's reminding the rest of the world that no matter how far we wander, the door to God is always open. All you gotta do is walk through.